from the roof of the information ministry there. Operation Desert Fox, for all 4 nights we watched those hits, those U.S. and British attacks on Baghdad. Certainly that experience might seem a bit like a fireworks display compared to what we might be heading into tonight and in the coming next few nights. We saw various government buildings hit on those nights, but again, there was a casual feeling in the air in Baghdad at that time. People didn't even go into the shelters. They stood on their roofs and watched the action. But in fact, this could be much more serious. The placement of the government ministry buildings, which might be targeted in these raids, are very critical. Of course, the fear is of any collateral damage, that is, any civilian casualties in any kind of experience like this. But in fact, many of the government buildings are far away from residential areas. They are in the middle of Baghdad, but they are in an area that's been cleared.
Greg, excuse me for just a second, Greg. Yes. I want to go to a picture that's just coming into us from Al Jazeera television. That's on Rim 14 in the booth and is now on your screen. And this is the most recent explosion. We watched as a fireball was set off. I believe that this is live in Center City in Baghdad. And now clearly the cruise missiles are raining down on Baghdad, and the early explosions have begun. Whether this is shock and awe or not remains to be seen, but certainly for people who are witnessing this inside Baghdad, it must be shock and awe indeed. These are pictures coming to us from Abu Dhabi television, I believe, and live pictures inside Baghdad. And you can hear the anti-aircraft fire and what appears at least to be more strikes by cruise missiles, believed to be Tomahawk cruise missiles, which are dropping over Baghdad. Let's listen. Being described by witnesses on the ground as giant explosions. The target's unknown to us at this moment, but as we've been reporting, the military, the Allied sources had identified some 3,000 targets for striking in the first 24 to 48 hours. And that is certainly beginning. Huge explosions now being reported across the city of Baghdad. This particular picture in Center City in Baghdad. Command and control facilities to be targeted first, to make the enemy deaf and blind, cut off their ability to communicate, their ability to use their radars, and then to take out the command and control facilities within the capital city. And clearly, Britt Hume, that's happening now.
Well, Shep, we certainly are beginning to see more than we were before. And then one of the intriguing questions is, you remember 12 years ago that what really was the most, as the campaign got underway, the campaign against Baghdad then, most of the fireworks that we saw came from the Iraqis themselves and their tracer and anti-aircraft fire. So far, the level of that, General Burt Moore, has not been what we saw 12 years ago, has it?
No, it has not, and it's not surprising given that the air campaign in '91 just decimated most of Iraqi's air defenses. He's much more limited now than he was before.
Now, were air defenses also part of the targeting in Operation Desert Fox, which came much later?
Yes, but not quite as much.
Didn't need to?
Intensive. Yes, that's correct.
So what we're seeing here is, in a sense, about the best they can do?
I would think so, and given the Army's down below 50%, the whole thing about his capability is much more degraded than it was, and we're seeing it here with this limited AAA.
And anything you can tell us about the nature of the missiles that may have, or bombs that may have arrived there based on the explosions you're seeing? Well, I would suspect they're a combination of Tomahawk cruise missiles, if we got the B-52s in place, air-launched cruise missiles, and also the Joint Direct Attack Munition, 2,000-pounders, as well as... all of those are precision-guided? All those are precision-guided, and now we have the capability for global positioning system accuracy, which is a couple of feet rather than meters. So they're much more accurate, and you see the little bit of cloud cover there. They're impervious to the weather, so the stealth can drop them from above the clouds, and they're going to be just as accurate. Whereas laser, you have to have a visual on the target. Let's bring in Brett Baer, our Pentagon correspondent. Brett.
Hi, Brett. We can confirm that there are thousands of targets on the list tonight, not just around Baghdad, but also Mosul and Kirkuk in the north. There you just heard a big explosion there outside Baghdad. Also to Crete, that is Saddam Hussein's hometown, which is in the north. Now, as the general mentioned, some of the anti-aircraft have been taken out on the outskirts, but there is a concern in the Air Force about some of the abilities, surface-to-air missiles that the Iraqis have inside Baghdad and have been pulling in recent days. According to one source, it really hasn't been softened up in and around the city. Now, a good thing, we're told, is that it's a cloudy night, as you can see there, and the aircraft that would be used in this package, the B-52s, we know that they try to fly about 10,000 feet above the cloud cover, as well as the B-2 stealth bombers. B-2s can carry 16 precision-guided bombs. The B-52s have 8 cruise missiles. Basically, each one of these missiles twice as big as the Tomahawk cruise missile. And these are large explosions now that we're seeing in Baghdad. Britt, I'm just going to be quiet for a second and see if we can listen in.
The glow, I presume, General Moore, we're seeing there at the bottom of our screen, those are fires. Fires, secondary fires hitting oil lines or whatever it might be that are kind of glowing within the cloud. It seems, though, as we look at what appears to be an office building or residential building on the left there, or left side of the screen, lights are still on. Lights are still on, and probably not many people home there. But the important thing about this particular air campaign with this accuracy we have is they can hit a target right next door. They can hit the second window on the second story of a building. And they don't need to turn the lights out? I mean, they don't need to darken Baghdad? I'm a little surprised that they haven't, but this could be an example of, again, the leadership not talking to the people who are supposed to execute these orders. And we're not going to knock out the electrical power. No, it's very important for us that we keep the electrical power on. We want whatever resistance that will rise up from within to be able to hear what we're telling them. So that is fire across that lower horizon. That is fire across the lower part of the screen there, yes. Thank you, General. Shep?
Britt, we're getting some early information from first dispatches from Baghdad about what that fire is. And we can now confirm that maybe not this particular fire, but Saddam's main palace is now on fire, and has been hit by some dozen missiles, according to witnesses on the ground there. The first huge plumes and the first attack, the concentrated strikes, believed to have been an attack on the presidential palace with a number of missiles. Our correspondent David Shader, one of the few correspondents remaining inside Baghdad, is speaking right now and watching the night sky. Let's listen to David.
And the attack is continuing on all sectors and all fronts around the center of the city. At least 30 explosions. I don't know if you can hear me. Can anybody hear me?
David, we can hear you loud and clear. Please keep describing the scene for us if you can hear me.
Okay, Jeremy, I had to, it's very difficult getting a line out at the moment, as you can imagine, but all around the skyline there's been huge bursts, air bursts, missiles and bombs. It's very difficult to actually watch it and make sure I'm safe, but this is the beginning of shock and awe. It was a dreadful sight. It was very close to us. It's still going on. There's still bursts in the distance. It's now very much moving from the south and the west into the center of the city. I can't see what's happening to the north and the east, but huge amounts of percussions, large explosions, a pall of smoke hanging all around the city at the moment, a lot of fires burning. An extraordinary scene at the moment. It was a bit of a lull, but that's... I think the citizens now of Baghdad know exactly what the Pentagon means by shock and awe. A huge, intense barrage of missiles and bombs aimed at the heart of the city to dislodge, dislocate, and paralyze the command and control structures. I'm getting a lot of interference on this radio. It's very difficult to communicate with you. I hope you can still hear me. Can you hear me, Jeremy?
We can still hear you, David, so keep going if you can.
There's another. Oh. Okay, well, those are very large bombs. Those must be the 1,000-pounders, I would have thought. Much, much larger explosions than last time. Huge shock waves coming through the balcony and the open doors where I'm standing. I have no idea if you can hear me. Can you still hear me? A very large blast, very close to us.
Can still hear you. I can still hear you, David. Yes, keep talking if you can.
It's impossible for me to hear you, but I can just about hear you in the distance, Jeremy. There's not so much ACAC fire going up now. That huge, intense barrage coming down from the skies or from cruise missiles is impossible for me to say because I don't want to expose myself out there. But it's had the same effect on the ACAC crews and the air defenses. They seem to be suppressed at the moment. Yet another lull, but all the lights of the city... Hello?
Yes, David, keep going. Can you hear me?
I think I've lost my line.
We're listening to David Chater, Sky News correspondent, the sister network of Fox News, live inside Baghdad.
It's gone. A really intense barrage and series of explosions, intense percussions and shock waves rolling across the Tigris at the moment. And I think I've lost communication.
David, you're still there. I'll keep talking to try and identify the line. David Chater with us in Baghdad. He says about 30 missiles have landed. And I can tell you from other eyewitnesses that fires are raging in the Iraqi presidential complex after missile strikes. The Americans had called it awe and shock. What we have seen tonight was both awesome and awful and no doubt shocking too. Few people watching live television will have ever witnessed quite such a bombardment live on television around the world, and it is bound to send shockwaves not just through the Iraqi
David Chater, Sky News correspondent, inside Baghdad, watching as the bombs rain down. The latest as we know it, the main presidential palace in Baghdad is in ruins and in flames, hit by as many as 12 missiles. David Chater reporting a short time ago as what appeared to be an enormous bomb. He speculated that it may be one of the 1,000-pound bombs blew up very near his location. We do not know exactly where David Chater is, and he's not releasing that information except to say that he's in